Today we're ranking every single card in Clash Royale from worst to best. Starting off with the worst card in Clash Royale, the Goon Giant. It does nothing. It's basically a worse version of the Ice Golem that may or may not buff like 4 cards actually well. And now that it no longer does it after it dies, all you have to do is kill the Rune Giant, which isn't really hard to do. The card is just terrible. Absolutely nobody uses it. Even people trying to troll. Barb Hut. Unfortunately, the Barb Hut just doesn't really do too much. Usually, you'll be able to get the first 3 Barbarians, and you'll be able to counter buildings regularly. But the problem is, I'd almost rather use normal Barbarians, which also aren't that good outside of the Evo version. And Tombstone, Tesla, Cannon, every single other building in the game will do the exact same thing for cheaper. So Barb Hut really doesn't have a place, although I love Alt, Barb Huntington, whatever you want to call them. We've got Mirror. It's not really justifiable to use Mirror over another spell because it won't usually do something special for +1 elixir that you can't do with another card. For example, let's say I'm playing Bait, and I'd rather have Dark Goblin and Princess instead of Princess and Mirror, because if I mirror usually you can get the same value out of like, oh, I can use the same card twice out of another card. It's just pointless and a waste of elixir and a waste of a deck slot. Next up is Electro Dragon. Absolutely nobody uses the base Electro Dragon. Now, that's not to say that the Evo E-Dragon is the 118th worst card in the game. That's not what I'm saying. But we have to rank, since we're ranking Evo separately, we have to rank the E-Dragon just based off the base E-Dragon, and it's really bad. Nobody uses the E-Dragon just for the E-Dragon, and even in Evo E-Dragon decks, E-Dragon doesn't typically do that much. You're just trying to get to your Evo. It's really easy to kill. It's really easy to stall. It's just not a good card. Next up, we've got Clone, and 1 out of every 114 games, you will have a match where Clone does something. Outside of that, you're just handing your opponent extra elixir, because there are at least half of the cards in the game that will counter a Clone push well, especially in a beatdown meta and a meta where there's a lot of splash, and especially after the splash cards all got buffed to like the same radius. Clone just almost never does anything except for the one time where, you know, your opponent's running Giant Skelly Clone and you spend all your elixir. This thing is pathetic. That's all I have to say about it. I mean, it is really annoying when I play a Fireball on my opponent's Evo E-Drag and they drop a Battle Healer to spawn heal it. But, I mean, outside of those very niche E-Golem decks, you have never seen a Battle Healer in your life. You never will. And even in the E-Golem decks, the Battle Healer's kind of been replaced. So it's cool every once in a while. It really almost isn't worth using at all, except for a very few circumstances, which is the similar thing for almost all the cards on the bottom of the list. Freeze is already, you know, it's already kind of bad because although you're getting a freeze down, you're like freezing the opponents. That's what the freeze does. You're also not doing any damage practically, and you're just getting your opponents more time to build a counter push and punish you. So it's very easy to use freeze incorrectly, or to just have freeze not do anything at all. Maybe it gets you an extra balloon hit, but instead you lose your entire tower off of a counter push that got stalled for 4 seconds. Also, vines have just completely replaced the freeze. There's no reason to use freeze unless you're trolling and you have both. Next up is Archers. Now, the stats are a little bit, you know, we're not exactly ranking just based off the stats. We're also ranking just based off common sense, how cards are doing. But in Ultimate Champion, Archers have some of the worst stats in the game. Now, a reason for this is because they separate stats into evolved troops and normal troops. If you see somebody running Archers, they are always running the evolved Archers. Nobody runs base Archers. If you want to run base Archers, you'll run a base different version of a ground card. You're only using Archers to get to the Evo. Nobody uses them normally because they're just not good at all. Maybe the first hot take of the video, I'm putting Little Prince in the cellar. Like, I'm just putting him in the cellar because of a numerous amount of things. One, you can only use one champion and every other champion is better than him. Also, in terms of comparing him to ranged support troop cards, I would rather have him over Archers. That's about it. His ability sucks. His ability's 3 elixir, not worth playing at all. And it's just the Little Prince, he's really easy to stop. If he's fully ramped up and just sitting there and you have nothing for him, I can see how he'd get value. That almost never happens. Phoenix is abysmal, and a lot of this may not be because the card is just terrible, but also because of the card's role. When you're looking at ranking cards, not only am I ranking the strength of the card, but also how it pairs up to its opponents. Let's say the I-Drag or the Mega Minion. You kind of just have this void in the middle of the I-Drag and Mega Minion, where you're like, Mega Minion's cheaper, does more damage per second, and the I-Drag is the same cost, but does way more to tanks. So where does the Phoenix fit in? It doesn't. Honestly, Evo Battle Ram is great. The card is fine, and it's very fun to use, and it's very polarizing. The normal Battle Ram is just ass. Like, If you're using normal Battle Ram, people just use Ram Rider instead because it's better. If you're using Evo Battle Ram, that's the only reason people use Battle Ram. Like, this is the common theme with all of these base cards, that people just don't use them unless they're using the Evo because the card is bad, which is usually why the card got an Evo. I don't care what the stats say, this card sucks. Bomb Tower, like, does anyone see Bomb Towers? Unless, you know, you switch to Royal Hogs recruits for the first game. Then you get Bomb Tower and Bowler and Wizard and Falcon. Bomb Tower just, it doesn't pair up to any other building. It just doesn't. It doesn't. The Cannon's better, the Tesla's better, the High Tower's better, the Tombstone's better, I guess not the Barb Hut. But, you know, I don't know. I think Bomb Tower needs like an Evo or something. And don't think that for 1 second I'm not glad Expo is here. But Expo is just unplayable. It's unplayable in this current meta. I think you could deadass like sit there for 20 seconds and do nothing against Expo with some of these beatdown decks and still win the game. Expo is genuinely unplayable. I don't know how people like Hunter do it. I think he's losing his mind and somebody needs to check up on him. But Giant Skeleton, honestly, I really like picking this card in like triple draft and stuff. It's like really fun and occasionally it gets value. It's just, it's really inconsistently a bad like 6 elixir card. It's just not worth its elixir almost all the time because usually when you play it, you do go down a ton of elixir. You've got to pick between supporting your Giant Skelly, letting him get counted for free, and then defending the other lane. It's just Giant Skelly. He used to be really good at clogging up lanes. I guess he can kind of still do that now, but there's a lot of cards in the meta that are good against these clogging lanes type things, and Giant Skeleton just isn't able to consistently get good value and is easily counterable, and the bomb doesn't really do that much except when it gets to the tower, but it just almost will never do that. Even the Evo Hunter is pretty much unused. It's outside of like a 1 Royal Giant variant, but the and maybe 3M, but like, come on, the Hunter just isn't really used right now. And a lot of this is because there's at least like what 30 like ranged support troop cards to use. So it doesn't necessarily mean he's a horrible card, but paired up to other things, it's just not worth really using right now because of the current meta. If you want to get up close and personal with these pushes, you are going to lose. Like, the Hunter is going to die before he gets much value out of anything in the current meta. I don't think he needs a buff necessarily. We just need to fix the meta, and then you'll see the Hunter come back a little bit in popularity. I also don't care what the stats say, but going from Ultimate Champion to top 1000 stats, the Tesla's win percentage drops under 40. That's kind of insane. The base Tesla is just not, no. If you use the Tesla, usually most people use it to use the Evolved Tesla, because the stun on the Evolved Tesla, it's really good as an AoE clear out, it's really good as a stall, it's really just, it's a nice refresher, it helps you play extra defense. The normal Tesla is just kind of balls, so, I mean, it ranks pretty low. It is better than the Bomb Tower, though, which isn't saying much. Not to beat the dying horse, but the Executioner is only used because it was Evo, by the way. And, like, again, all of these cards, I will keep saying it, are only being used because of the Evo, and the base version just isn't a very good card. Like, ranking not only just playing it without the Evo, but playing it the version to get to the Evo, the Executioner is just not really a card that anybody has to worry about. The really annoying thing about him is the evolved version's extra damage and knockback. That makes him a really good card and a really solid Evo. The normal Executioner is like, I don't care. And literally almost any card except Swarm cards counter him. And even if you have like a tiny bit of misalignment, a Swarm card will counter him too. So not a threat at all. Barbarians are interesting because, I mean, although the evolved version's better, they're not useless. They're just mostly useless because, you know, Barbs usually are good to counter beatdown metas, right? And then you figure out that one Goblin Machine rocket later, your whole Barbs are all dead. So they usually don't live up to getting 5 elixirs worth of value, and you'd rather have that in some other form. As we all know, the Goblin Curse had its damage amplification removed, and practically nobody saw this card fall off just because it got replaced by Vines. Essentially, you put Vines wherever Goblin Curse was and more. And I mean, Curse just doesn't really, it's not that used anymore because it wasn't really used for turning things into goblins as much as it was used for killing things faster. And now that you can't do that, it's like, well, nobody really cares about the poor little goblins anymore. My recent collab with the Big Yaz actually made me move the E-Barbs up a few spots. The problem is they're still just pretty bad. It's similar to the Giant Skeleton where they are 6 elixir. It's gonna take a lot of value to make up for being 6 elixir. Think Boss Bandit. Boss Bandit is good for 6 elixir because of how much she forces out, because you always have to play extra to worry about her, all this stuff. E-Barbs is just gonna, you know, play a swarm card. Oh, well, they have rage. Well, that's 8 elixir. So, I mean, if you're down in elixir, I don't expect you to defend E-Barbs, but you have to be down a lot to give E-Barbs value, and that typically just doesn't happen. The base Goblin Barrel is butt cheeks. The Evo Goblin Barrel is really, really broken in a couple of bait decks that you should absolutely not be struggling in mid-ladder with. They're just dominant. There's certain bait decks that are just dominant, but outside of that, talking about the base Goblin Barrel just doesn't really, usually just gets killed. The Evo Goblin Barrel is where the damage is at. The normal one, eh. Three Musketeers are jumping up the list quite a little bit because they have seen valiant few fellows that have decided to one-trick Three Musketeers. Bold souls, I'll give them that. And have had relatively success with it. I mean, it's not like anyone's in the top 200 or Three Musketeers, but, I mean, there's like quite a few people, you know, I see on ladder playing them. I see, you know, 25, 27, 28 medals. It's like, wow, you're really using Three Musketeers up here? They're not horrible. They're not the worst thing in the world, because similar to why the Witch decided to just become a great card again, because the spell combos in the game right now aren't just designed to counter 3M. So there's a lot of decks out there with lacking the ability to kill 3Ms with their spells, which is making 3M just a little bit better. Base Mortar is pretty crap. The Evo Mortar is good. It's not even that great in the meta right now. You don't see too much Mortar. It's just how the matchups work. Like, some decks just don't do well because of what's in the meta. That happens to everyone in certain metas. And yeah, right now it's just the Mortar's not that great. The base Mortar honestly never really was that great. The Evo Mortar, though, is a whole nother story, and even that's not that great. The bats are 97 solely based off of the amount of times a really good minor poison one trick has got me with bats. And that's just about it. You know, funnily enough, that's not a word. Is it a word? I don't know. Sparky was actually on the uptick until Vines came out. There were a lot more Sparkies. Giant Sparky, Goblin Giant Sparky, and now I face Sparky so rarely that even though I know the matchup inside out, I can still lose it because of how long it's been since the last time I faced Sparky. It's just not really good right now, especially with Vines. It's so easy to stop the Sparky. You have to try. You have to try to lose to Sparky. Please don't pull up a clip of me losing to Sparky. Skeleton Army. Honestly, not the worst card in the game, but it's really easy to kill. If you're baiting really well and you're just tracking your opponent's cycle really well, it can get value. It's just usually, you know, guards, goblin gang. A different swarm card is harder to kill or gets more value or forces more out than the Skeleton Army. So really, I mean, Scrummy just dies too quickly. It's the problem. And it's really easy to predict and read. So it's gonna have more opportunities where it doesn't do anything than when it does do anything, which is why it's this low. Honestly, even though this card is used in a couple of drill decks, I don't really see it anymore. Especially even in those drill decks. Goblin Demolisher is just like, okay, I don't see this card anymore, and it doesn't really do anything. So Suspicious Bush, not quite good enough to be ranked higher, but still a pain in the ass and annoying when you're also dealing with like a Skeleton Barrel and a Goblin Barrel and a Boss Bandit, and the Sussy Bush just sneaks by and they do what, 500 a hit? 372. Yeah, close enough, because you add the 2 and then you divide by 2 and whatever. Honestly, the more I've played Wizard, the base Wizard's not the worst card of all time. I mean, he's not good. He's not good, but he can get value. The Evo Wizard's amazing, so, I mean, maybe amazing is... I'm personally biased. I like the Evo Wizard. I think he's cool. The normal Wizard, he can get good value. You have to be smart with him. He can get his elixirs worth of value. There are better options, but the Wizard is he's still fine. He's alright. You could definitely make an argument for him being better than Rascals, but I think ever since that little Rascals buff, they are easier to use, and they do get more value better now because of the Rascal Boy actually not hitting people with the wooden stick. He does like double his old damage. So the Rascal Boy, the problem was typically you'd play him, the Rascal Girls would instantly die, and then you just have a Rascal Boy who's sitting there hitting people with his shoe. And now he does more damage, so you're basically paying 5 elixir for a night. There's a whole bunch of math going on, but he's alright. The best Goblin Giant decks are with Evo Goblin Giant, and he's not the worst thing outside of his Evo, but a big problem with the Evo Goblin Giant is him getting chefed up to level 16 and then spawning level 16 goblins that are now 3 hits and change a bunch of other interactions. Goblin Giant just by himself is kind of like... Also, this is totally like a placebo effect, but it just feels like the Evo has more health. The Goblin Giant just like, his health bar is like every time. It's just that it looks like he dies faster. He doesn't, but it looks like it and makes me feel better. He's just not very... The base Goblin Giant's just not very good. Skelly Drags used to be a great card, and now there's not really a need to Fireball bait in the meta because people aren't really using Fireball like that. And also Baby Dragon. Like, Baby Dragon Evo is so good, you don't even think about using the Skelly Drags. I don't even miss the Skeleton Dragons. Some things were terrible for me, and, you know, that one time they clutched up a game doesn't count. They were ass. They were ass, and I know Rakan Skelly Drags do really good. Mine don't. Honestly, I'm taking one for the team. Goblin Drill on top ladder, great. People like Newbie, I see his clips on Twitter. The defense with he be playing, the defense and the offense and the sequences, dude, they're so good. Problem is when like, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Layman. When normal people use the drill, it's just not very good. Like, it's really hard. There's so many little micro interactions that have to go well for you to succeed with drill, and that to me doesn't make the drill a top echelon card because of its potential. It's because of, you know, if the average user picks up a Goblin Drill, what are they going to do with it? Not that much. You know, even good players that aren't good at Cycle aren't going to do that much with Drill. Magic Archer, he's fun. The problem is, I mean, he's squishy. He's really squishy. And he dies really easily. Although he can get that piercing off, he doesn't do too much damage. So a lot of the time when you have super thick metas where you're currently having to defend 3 cards with over 3,000 health each, the Magic Archer is not worth the 4 elixir. You'd rather have something that's doing more damage, even though he is piercing. It's not necessarily AoE, so he's not worth it because usually he won't help you get those pushes down in time when you'd rather have something else with the elixir. Honestly, I love the Royal Delivery. Statistically, I literally cannot back up putting it higher. The stats are just bad. And Queen Hogs isn't even in the meta right now. There is a deck that's like Speedy Mighty Miner Hogs. So literally no top ladder deck is using Royal Delivery. Except for like maybe Baby Nate's like rocket thing, but I think he just uses that for fun. It's not even the best rocket deck or minor rocket deck. So Royal Delivery is just not very good. And I love the card. I think it's great, but I mean, it's just not really, there's nothing there's no evidence to validate putting it higher, basically. I mean, to be honest with you, Royal Giant's not even that good right now. And I know that a couple of top ladder pros are going to be able to push up with Royal Giant, and it is possible in the meta, although there's a lot of bad matchups. But again, we're not ranking Evo Royal Giant. Evo Royal Giant is the only Royal Giant that's used. So again, you can't really use this stats because there's not enough stats, and there's really bad stats for the base versions of cards. But the Royal Giant, he just doesn't have the greatest place in the meta right now. And also, he's not that great without his Evo. I think his Evo helps him get, because Royal Giant, a lot of the time, you won't get massive amounts of damage with him. Even 1 or 2 hits can secure you the game. And him having that knockback effect allows him to get extra damage. So it's really important that you do have the Evo for the Royal Giant. The Witch is annoying. The Witch is annoying. She summons her skeletons. She has good splash damage. But the problem is the Evo. The Evo is a top 3 Evo in the game. I made the Evo ranking video like right before the meta shift. I want to do it differently next season. But the Witch is not really the problem. It's more the Evo, the healing, the fact that I can put a Valkyrie on a Witch Evo and she doesn't die. My Valk dies. Hello? But I mean, the normal Witch is annoying, but that's about all she is. Speaking of the Valkyrie, she has some of the, on API, worst stats in the game. And that's just the problem with ranking based off of only stats. I'm not going to address it again, but the base, nobody uses the base Valkyrie. Evo Valkyrie is just an insane card. And I think the normal Valkyrie is, while she's good, if you're not using her for the Evo, you're just better off using something else, like a Dark Prince, like a Knight, like a different mini tank, or maybe a DPS unit. The Valkyrie's cool. She gets a consistent value. She's decent. There's just no upside to using the Valkyrie except for the Evo. The Evo version's insane, but the normal Valkyrie is kind of mid. The same exact reasoning goes for the Firecracker. Literally the same exact reasoning. Evo Firecracker, definitely worth using, I think, in a lot of decks. It's fell off a ton. But, I mean, the normal Firecracker, no, just don't do it. I'm going to be honest, the same exact reasoning also goes for the Skeleton Barrel. Evo Skeleton Barrel is annoying and a big pain. The normal Skeleton Barrel is a nice, like, cheap pressure card. I mean, it doesn't mean, right, we're at the point now where it's like, we're at like 81, 80. It's not, every card's not bad now. It's just, you have to rank the cards in some order, and Skelly Barrel is just not very good. Like, it can be annoying and pressure well, and the problem is got high upside and a very low downside. Like, the downside happens a ton, that it just doesn't do anything. So it can't be ranked higher. I may fall asleep making this video. Elixir Collector. Honestly, Elixir Collector has had a relatively nice upsurge in the meta. It's being used again in Golem. It's being used in 3M. It's being used in bridge spam to a degree. And I mean, pump is chill. I mean, pump is I think seeing a benefit in, once again, there's less big spell combos being used. I mean, there's a lot of lightning to counter. There's a lot of lightning and poison, but you know, typically you don't see people pump their spell the pumps too much because you need the spells for the other cards. Pump is just, it's seen a little bit of uptick in the meta. It's cool. Goblin Cage is a solid building that oftentimes is just used to kite things. If the Goblin Brawler gets value, it makes the card really good. If he doesn't, it's just kind of a waste because he's not directly doing damage. You need to be able to have the Goblin Brawler do good work, and then the Cage becomes a good card. The problem is that doesn't always happen every time you use it, so unfortunately, Cage won't be higher. Spirit Empress is still good in competitive play and duels and things like that, but as for ladder, it's just not really worth it anymore. It was really, I think, getting carried by the fact that every time you would use it, it'd stay alive at like 5 health. And that was kind of the problem with overbuffing it. They nerfed the health, and now suddenly it's not used because it's not staying alive at 1 health anymore. That's, who would have thought? Mega Knight! The Mega Knight is everyone's favorite card. Evo Mega Knight's kind of the problem, though. Evo Mega Knight is great because he stomps on win conditions, knocks everything back, great defensive card. Normal Mega Knight's just... Mega Knight's not great in the meta, to be honest. And looking at the majority of people, like, who play... aren't affected by the meta. The Mega Knight is still, it's a decent card. It's just, if you don't give your opponent Mega Knight value, it's really easy to control the flow of the game and be able to deal with the Mega Knights easily. Honestly, Heal Spirit's cool. Heal Spirit's chill. There's a lot of opportunities to use the Heal Spirit and get a lot of value because it heals for like 600 out of your cards that you normally wouldn't do. It's only 1 elixir. It's there's almost no downside to playing it. And the potential to getting value out of it is pretty good. So, Heal Spirit, yay. Night Witch is a, interesting card because it kind of fell off a ton, but it's not a bad card necessarily. There's just better options. Like, when I look at cards, sometimes cards just aren't used. There's 121 cards in the game, man. A lot of them just aren't going to get used all the time. And that doesn't mean that they're bad cards. It just means maybe the role isn't there for it right now. Night Witch does good damage, is really annoying with the bats, is fairly good at, like, stopping things on defense, as well as when she's behind a tank, being able to whittle down support troops. So, honestly, she's a pretty solid card. She doesn't have a ton of place in the meta right now, but she's still pretty good. This is a tough one to rank. Honestly, Furnace at 74, is it? It's like, the Evo Furnace is great. Evo Furnace is one of the best cards in the game. It's being used to control a lot, but the base Furnace is like, it's annoying, and sometimes the Fire Spirits are really nice, but a lot of the time, it's not that annoying. It's like, it's kind of just easy to get off the board. It's the Evo Furnace that's the hard part, and people aren't really using the Furnace without the Evo Furnace at all, which is what knocks it down a lot here. Even though the Furnace does get consistently good value, nobody uses the base Furnace, like, as their card. They use it to get to the Evo, and the normal base Furnace will usually get its elixirs worth of value, and it's also pretty easy to kill, so... Spear Goblins are a card that was really good when bait was dominating. They got nerfed like twice, and now are just kind of, they're good. The 2 elixir Spear Goblins are really used to bait other like spells out, or they just stay alive because you've already baited other things out. Spear Goblins are alright. Cool little chill card. The base Baby Dragon, honestly, it's alright. It's not like a bad card at all. It's just kind of mid. The Evo Baby Dragon's the great card. It's just dominating. But the Baby Dragon normally doesn't really do too much damage. Has a good splash. It's just that it's a mid card. It has decent splash. Paid off for the fact that it doesn't do any damage. And survives lightning, which I guess is cool. But, I mean, other than that, it's just kind of mid. Inferno Tower is a good option at stopping a lot of the beatdown cards in the meta. The problem is Vines kind of just demolish it. So... Vines being demolishing at mains, since that's an easy elixir trade, you don't typically have to overspend, and the eye tower is expensive, so it's easy for the eye tower to just get shut down completely for not much elixir at all, and it's hard for it to recover. So eye tower is kind of mid, but a lot of the time, if you're not playing against those vines and stuff like that, eye tower is going to be really good against the meta. I'm actually a big Tombstone fan in this current situation we've got going on ladder here, because it's great versus the single target attackers. Prince P.E.K.K.A, Mini P.E.K.K.A, all of which are pretty popular. It's good against E-Giants, good against Golem, it's good against so many ground tanks, good against Royal Giant. And you're not, since we're seeing a lot more Barbell instead of Log, Barbell doesn't really reach the tombstones if you place them lower than, lower than the bridge, then they typically get no way to get directly on your tombstone, meaning the skeletons always stay alive, and that's pretty helpful, making the tombstone a lot better. 69, we have the Bomber. The Bomber is just a pretty solid, good card. It's not nothing special. It's never going to do anything crazy. It can stay alive for a long time and just sit there getting value. It's never going to do anything terrible. It's never going to do nothing. It's mid. Next up is Earthquake. Honestly, not seeing a huge usage in the meta right now. It's one of the worst spells, I think, just because there's not really that much to EQ. You'd rather have consider we're playing Hog and we want lightning now, because I don't want to EQ buildings. I want to lightning things because everyone's using something that I should lightning kind of thing, if that makes sense. Zap is a solid spell. It's versatile. It's able to reset things. Not that you need to reset too much in the meta right now, but I'd say it's fell off a little bit due to the fact that you no longer have like Zap Curse as a combo that's really popular. And honestly, the Evo Zap is really good. The normal Zap is just and also there's not too much to Evo Zap in the meta either. So E-Golem, it's annoying to face, hard to go up against, unless you're playing a deck that it's easy to go up against with, which is a lot of decks in the meta right now. E-Golem's not too great. That doesn't mean if you're using E-Golem in a meta where it's not great and you're winning, it's skill. E-Golem is not skill at all. But the E-Golem, I mean, it typically gets tons of damage against matchups where it's able to get tons of damage against. So it's honestly not the worst option to play in the meta right now. Next up is Stab Goblins. They're a pretty decent card. They honestly always get their fair share of value. Not really worth using over skeletons, to be honest, just because you'd rather have the fast cycle. But they can hold their own weight against skeletons, and I don't think they can hold their own weight against guards and Goblin Gang, but they're trying. Ice Golem's a pretty solid tank in the meta, used in a few different variants of decks, and Ice Golem, you know, with that health buff, is now able to stay alive a lot longer. For just 2 elixir, kiting things is really nice. He honestly always holds up his end of the bargain, which isn't hard to do given he's only 2 elixir. Giant is still good, but kind of takes a back seat because of how good Goblin Giant is and Golem. Although you can see some success with Giant, there's almost no point to running Giant instead of running Golem or Goblin Giant. The Goblin Stein has gotten a lot better. I think a lot of this has to do with his ability being able to get more value against Beatdown, and him not being, I mean, he's pretty useless against Cycle. Cycle's just not really a part of the meta right now, so you're going to see the Goblin Stein be able to get practically, you know, good value every time you use him. For 5 elixir, it's hefty sometimes. But he can still get some good value in there with the thick tank and the ability and the stun, so it's not a bad card. When there's no bait units or things to dash off in the meta, Golden Knight's not going to be that great. But still, he's holding up his end of the bargain. He's being pretty good. But again, you can't really expect him to be that good given that his role is to deal with Swarm, and there's barely any Swarm and mainly just thickness in the meta, so he's not going to be great against those thick cards. But if you manage to, I guess, get the right supporting cast around him, he'll do good. Usually there's better options in a beatdown meta, though. Musketeer is a very solid card with good DPS, a low skill floor, and very high ceiling where she's able to stay alive, get a lot of value on offense too. On defense, she's always going to do at least the minimum, and honestly just a good card to build your deck around if you just don't have any other ideas. I mean, Musketeer is always going to do good damage, good offensive pressure, good range, doesn't die to Fireball, good card. Archer Queen is a little bit better than the Musketeer, also a lot more expensive, especially with the ability. So you have to really consider, are you really gonna like have value out of this? So I think it's very interesting to try and deal with the Archer Queen versus Musketeer thing, because obviously there's pros and cons. But the Archer Queen isn't the strongest champion in the game right now, and its main deck isn't being used, so it's kind of in a weird spot to rank. Bandit's a pretty solid bridge spam card, oftentimes forces out a lot of elixir, gets at least 3's worth of value, and can be really annoying if you are down on elixir, your opponent pressures you well and connects to the tower. She does quite a little splink of damage. So Mega Minion's a solid DPS card that does a lot of damage. It kind of gets crapped on because of its range. Dies pretty easily to things like Goblin Machine, Goblin Giant, thingamabobbers on the back. Isn't good against the Witch. So there's a lot of places where the Mega Minion just isn't great, but is usually able to hold up his own and isn't a bad card by any means. Good option, fits in any deck. Lumberjack is pretty solid right now. His Evo is obviously better, but the normal Lumberjack, you don't see too many people running Lumberjack. When you do, there's a fair balance between people using Evo Lumberjack and normal Lumberjack. Lumberjack is just a good card. He's just solid. Nothing fancy. He's pretty easy to kill, but put behind the right scenarios, he can be a real pest. Next up are Royal Recruits. Pretty brainless. They're easy to play, easy to use, easy to build a deck around, easy to split lane with. And honestly, they're not the greatest card of all time. The Evo Recruits do make them better and more oppressive. But I mean, the normal recruits still get the job done in the sense of apply pressure to both lanes simultaneously. They do their job. They're just not as good as the Evo version, but still pretty annoying to go up against. Princess is a really solid card. She can be used as a win condition. She can be used to bait in bait decks with, oh, who would have known, with baiting out the spells with the Dark Goblins, the barrels. She's just a good card. Solid card, annoying to deal with. Electro Wizard often gets pretty decent value. Now that he one-shots spirits, he's a lot more annoying, and it forces out more elixir to deal with him. And sometimes, based off the cards that you use, or that are used to counter your E-Wiz, since you can't use just spirits and stuff like that anymore, it may open up other opportunities for your deck. Honestly, the stun's really nice too. He's a pretty annoying card and oftentimes gets pretty good value. Dark Goblin's pretty similar to the Princess, where he's going to be annoying, he's going to be used to bait, and he always gets good value. We're starting to get to the point where all of the cards now are just good cards, and they're just ranked in order of, like, you know, how impactful they are to the meta. The Dark Goblin's a good, annoying card. He's definitely being used without his Evo. He's very good without his Evo, and yeah. Electro Giant has seen a massive comeback in the meta. The guy's pretty solid. I mean, honestly, I wasn't surprised that he came back in the meta. As a deck, he's very good. Good with the Baby Dragon, good with the Witch, good with the Xe. He's just back. He's all the way back. Good at defending the current meta, good at punishing, and especially good with the Evo Baby Dragon. Cannon card gets solid pressure and value every single time it's played. Is pretty annoying, and ever since they fixed that bug and gave him a little more health, is now pretty annoying to face and doesn't have really bugs, so it's going to stay locked on. And I mean, it makes him a little easier to counter than he was, but Cannon card's still pretty good. The Knight is a solid jack of all trades that's honestly always going to get his elixirs worth of value, is never going to do anything really cool, so that's why he's kind of capped at this range. But I mean, the Knight's always a solid card. If you need something to put in your deck, why not? Next up is Dark Prince. Dark Prince got that buff that makes him do more damage, and he's been holding his weight since then. He's been doing a lot more damage. I think he's one-shotting things like princesses and stuff now, which is kind of really nice. And the Dark Prince is kind of creeping back into his role of being a nice hybrid, sort of like how the mini P.E.K.K.A is like a hybrid mini tank thing. The Dark Prince is a hybrid mini tank as well. He doesn't obviously have as much health as he should, but the shield, the extra damage, he's definitely seeing more of a place in the meta. Skelly King is honestly making a little bit of a comeback. You've seen him in a few decks, and he's pretty solid. He gets that ability off pretty consistently. His AoE is nice. He's able to pierce things from a pretty long range, and the skeletons can be nice, especially with Curse no longer being in the meta, to actually deal damage to these beatdown decks. Ram Rider's a really annoying card that's a good counterpart to the Battle Ram Evo. And so you typically see people using either one of these. Ram Rider is annoying paired with the vines and the snowball. She's also easier to get to the tower. Good on defense as well. Honestly, just a pretty solid win condition. Inferno has seen better days, but to be honest, whenever you're running a beatdown meta, you're going to see Inferno Dragon get consistent value, and I think he's a pretty solid card right now. So the Schneeball, pretty solid card. We just mentioned it with the Ram Rider. The versatility and outplayability with the Snowball is really high, which is why it's going to rank higher than something like Zap. The only downside, it can't reset. And honestly, most people are going to use it for the Evo. The Evo is really good, but there's a handful of people that don't use it for the Evo. Snowball is just a pretty solid spell with a lot of outplayability, regardless of if it's the Evo or not. Wall Breakers are a good offensive threat for only 2 elixir, always having to worry about them, unless you're me and then I just tank them. But the Wall Breakers, they always get a large amount of damage, especially even the non-Evo versions are always going to be a threat. Evo is just a nightmare to defend, but the normal ones are really solid as well. The Cannon is a pretty good building, although most people do use it for the Evo version. The normal Cannon for only 3 elixir is going to deal a lot of damage, help you deal with those beatdown decks, and gets a lot of value every single time it's played. Next up is Boss Bandit. She's really annoying. I kind of alluded to this earlier. She's able to, unlike the other 6 elixir cards that we ranked, get very good value every single time she's played and force out a ton. You have to focus so much on not only what you're using for the boss bandit, but what you're using for the boss bandit that you would have to save for other cards. The boss bandit just always almost forces out a lot of cards if you're using it properly and you're timing it right, like you're not just going into guards with it or something. And the boss bandit, even though she got a couple of nerfs, still got a pretty clunky HP bar, hard to take down, gets a lot of value pretty much every time you play her. The base skeletons, the staple in cycle decks, are used everywhere, and honestly, I'm not gonna rank them higher than this. Like, statistically, yeah, they're one of the most used and most win percentage thing in the game. They're skeletons, man. They're only used because they're 1 elixir freaking cycle cards, bro. They're skeletons, man. Mother Witch is being used a lot more in the meta right now, and I don't know exactly why that is, but I would assume partly being because you have to commit a weird amount of elixir to kill her. Like, you're gonna honestly usually have to spend 6 to kill her, which is really always just a good thing. +4. She's oh, because graveyard's everywhere. Duh, what am I talking about? Mother Witch used to counter the graveyard, hard to kill because of the current spell combos, and honestly it's just pretty solid. Royal Ghost is always hovering around the top ranks. He's really really good. He's like a knight, but he's just better than the knight in a lot of ways because he goes stealthy. He does a whopping amount of damage, and he's always going to force an interesting counter out because of the fact that he's invisible. So you typically need like a good DPS unit once he's actually unstealthed because the tower isn't, you know, shooting at him in the meantime. Fire Spirit's actually really good, and I kind of want to rank the Fire Spirit as coming out of the furnace as well. Fire Spirit's just, it does a lot of damage. The radius is huge, and honestly, Fire Spirit's just a super solid card. You're not going to see it that much in cycle decks, but as a card, like in Furnace and stuff like that too, it's just really solid. The Monk, he's fun to use, fun to reflect things with, always gets like good value. He's able to stall things by knocking back with his 3rd attack, and it's just honestly, the Monk, he is used a lot in RG and things like that, just as a barrier to not let you go cannon, to not let you go projectile units. The Monk is always going to be a good option to put in Royal Giant decks and outplay a lot of things that are, you know, may counter your deck. Zappy's got way better after their buff. They're now attacking their first hit speed faster, which is allowing them to stagger and stun lock things easier. And even by the time you're able to get a spell down to counter them or something like that, they've done a good amount of stalling already. And they are also fireball baiting or spell baiting for whatever else you have in your deck. P.E.K.K.A is pretty solid even outside of Evo P.E.K.K.A right now. And you'll see a lot of people that are using different versions. Like, there's a lot of Evo P.E.K.K.A. There's a lot of, usually P.E.K.K.A's Evo'd. But even the non-Evo P.E.K.K.A, just doing a lot of damage, good against beatdown, good against just any mini tank meta where there's a lot of things. There's like less swarm. When there's less swarm, P.E.K.K.A is going to thrive. And although P.E.K.K.A is not like doing amazing, it's Bridge Spam's viable, Goblin Giant P.E.K.K.A is viable, so. Lava Hound's a little difficult to play in the meta, but if you find the right version and you really understand what you're doing, Lava Hound is winnable. It's always winnable. It's you're gonna have pretty good matchups, some bad matchups, a lot of outplaying you can actually do in the meta, and maybe the outplaying isn't as cool as with cycle decks, but you can definitely use the Lava to get good solid wins no matter where you are on ladder. Ice Wizard is up next, and Ice Wizard always is, you know, pretty annoying because he's just sitting back there. You have to spell him for a negative trade every time. He's sitting back there, he's slowing things down, stalling out the pushes, and although there's not too much Ice Wiz right now, Evo Witch is being used and Baby Dragon's being used, the Ice Wiz is still good. It's still solid, although he's having to compete for his starting job with Furnace and Evo Witch, which is not hard. It was not easy to do. So he's not higher up, but I mean, as a card that doesn't have an Evo version, he's really good. Love the Ice Wizard. Although Royal Hogs are no longer being used in that Queen deck, they have been replaced and are being used in a Mighty Miner Speedy Royal Hogs deck. And Royal Hogs are just still good in the meta. They're still seeing pretty high success rates. And the current deck right now with Speedy Royal Hogs is just really fun to play. I love it. Flying Machine also having an advantage from, you know, the spells in the current meta. Vines don't kill it. Lightning kills it for like a really bad trade. And Flying Machine will just kind of sit there and rack up good damage against big beatdown pushes. It'll sit back there and get good damage since it's spaced out. It won't necessarily get vined by everything immediately. And it's honestly good to pick off things from afar. Really solid card. I think Flying Machine's definitely underrated. Bowling! Bowler's really good. He's just really good. He's really thick. He's good against the beatdown decks. He's got a lot of pressure. Obviously, he's not great when there's not being a ton of swarm in the meta right now, but Bowler is still one of those cards that you always have to respond to, always have to worry about getting 400 chip damage through your tower at the bridge. Just an annoying ass card. Yeah, you're seeing this right. Minion Horde at 28. Minion Horde has seen a massive increase in use rate and win percentage. Minion Horde mainly benefiting from that buff, of course, that gave the minions extra range, as well as the fact that the vines are allowing you to stun things that may kill the minion hordes that aren't spells immediately, give you extra time. Paired with Miner, there's a ton of outplay to do with Miner Minion Horde. Honestly, it's a really fun card, and I'm glad it's doing way better. Even after the nerf, Tornado is still a solid card that, although it's not going to be good against swarm cards, again, the common denominator, swarm cards are kind of out of the meta right now. They're not the style, so Tornado, not going to see that net negative that you usually would, and you're not going to have to worry about failing to kill Goblin Gang, stuff like that. Tornado is just being used, and it's pretty solid. Lightning is definitely better than Rocket right now, but Rocket is still extremely solid, especially in minor Rocket decks, and I mean, it's going to be good against beatdown stuff as well. Maybe not the current things as much because it doesn't actually kill Goblin Machines, P.E.K.K.A.s, Goblin Giants. It's still pretty solid though, and you're going to see Rocket Cycle pretty successful towards the end season meta. Fisherman is a great utility card, similar to the Tornado. I'm putting him a little higher than the Tornado because he has that consistent value where he's going to do more than one. The Tornado is kind of like a one-use thing, and then the Fisherman's going to stay there and do more than that. Fisherman's like a staple. Is great against pulling kites or pulling tanks. He's just, the Fisherman's always getting value. He's always, you know, having those King Tower activations, supporting you on offense and defense. Really, really good card. Ice Spirit, always solid, always getting that nice stun, is staple in cycle decks, even without the Evo version. A lot of people aren't using the Evo version, just using the normal version. Ice Spirit's great, always good at stalling, always getting good value, and you can't complain. Balloon is up next, and honestly, it's a little surprising given that Balloon is like, you know, getting vined all the time. But the problem is you can't really vine the Balloon every single time because then you're not going to be able to vine the defense, which is typically what people vine. So the Balloon, it's not that impacted by the vines. If you're smart with where you're placing your balloons, when you're placing your balloons, you're going to have a lot of success with it, and that's been shown in the meta through the win percentage and use percentage. Fireball is a pretty decent spell, honestly. It's just not matching the lightning or the poison right now in terms of like the value it does. Fireball, there's stuff to Fireball. There's definitely stuff to Fireball, and Fireball with a small spell also covers up any of the things. It's just Fireball doesn't really kill anything directly. You always need to pair it with something. So, Fireball is just, it's kind of, it's not too much to Fireball right now, especially in the Witch meta. Everyone knows just how oppressive the Prince is. He just gets the 1 HP connections. He's too much health. He has too much damage. The Prince, man. We all love him. Totally. Graveyard, one of the best win cons in the game right now. It's really solid. It's, honestly, there's tons of defensive potential with the Graveyard decks. Graveyard decks are just so good at defense. Timing the Graveyards right, paired with Vines, paired with Poison. It's just, it's so hard to stop. Hog Rider! Okay, I'm too tired for this. Hog Rider, it's good. Hog Rider is really good. Honestly, you've seen Royal Hogs and Hog Rider kind of fall off a little bit. But for the most part, you don't need to worry about how Hog is doing in the top 200. Like, in order to have success with Hog, for the majority of players, Hog Rider is still a great, excellent card to use, to pick up, to learn. I'm actually going to work on it pretty soon here, so. Electro Spirit is really good. I'd honestly say it's better than the Ice Spirit. The chain is extremely nice against a lot of cards in the meta right now, especially things like Graveyard. E-Spirit and Ice Spirit, it's fun when they're both viable. It's a nice little change of pace, and typically, you don't have to worry about activating King Tower in the decks you're using Ice Spirit or E-Spirit against, so that's not something to worry about either. Poison is really solid right now as just a control like spell, as well as the fact that it defends the Graveyard. It defends against things like Witch, Furnace, any other card that's currently oppressive right now. The downside being it does take a little bit longer, so you are going to need to stall while the Poison's on the board, but still, Poison just better than Fireball right now, and it's a pretty useful spell. Goblin Gang's still absolutely amazing, especially in a lot of decks, but Goblin Gang, I mean, is just, it's not, you can't compare it to guards right now. The problem also being, what makes it a little bit, it would be worse, I think, if Log was more used, but Barb Barrel is more used, and you can kind of, you can play your Goblin Gangs deep, and you're going to be able to survive the Barb Barrel. Similar thing to the Tombstone we mentioned earlier in the video. Rage should not deal damage. Rage is broken. We hate the Rage. Miner is still very effective, to be honest. Miner's like, he's pretty strong. He got that damage buff or damage nerf a little while ago, but is still great at dealing tower damage, great at sniping things, great paired with a spell to do anything against furnaces, witches, stuff like that. Miners is a great card. Golem is honestly easier than Graveyard. I think Graveyard might be better. You can make an argument for Graveyard being better, but Golem is easier and still relatively the same success rate. So I'm putting Golem higher because it's like, it's stupidly easy to play. I like picked it up randomly and just went like 10-4 on stream with like 3 really stupid losses I probably shouldn't have lost to. Golem is broken. Golem is beyond broken. And a lot of that is, you know, it was nice he got that Golemite buff, but right now you just put 8 broken cards in the deck with him and they work. Surprise, surprise. Mighty Miner is extremely good right now. He's so strong against beatdown, and he's always getting very good value, especially because if you pair him with things that you would need to vine, you can vine bait, and they're not going to be able to kill things with the vines like your Firecracker, and also kill the or stall the Mighty Miner at the same time. So he's just going to sit there and rack up value, and if you need to, you can get that extra 500 damage from the bomb as well. Not to mention how good of a threat he is on offense. Goblin Hut extremely strong right now. I don't think it's oppressive, but it's always good value when it's sitting on the board, especially in graveyard decks. Goblin Hut is extremely good value, always gets spear goblins that honestly a lot of the time provide an offensive counter push too. Not to mention every single time you play it, it pretty much just gets its elixir back worth in value and more. Witch is dominating, so lightning is dominating. That's just kind of how it works. Lightning is an absolute must for a lot of decks in order to kill the witch because, you know, like we alluded to earlier, you literally can't kill the witch with the Valkyrie, so you need to do something about it. Yeah, this is weird, but Berserker's in the top 10. She's at 9. Berserker is basically the best mini tank in the game because she's only 2 elixir, and you can have a mini tank roll and a cycle card in one card and open up another deck slot for your deck. So it just makes it so much better. Berserker's always getting pretty solid value, honestly. She does decent damage, and for only 2 elixir, she's never not doing enough, if that makes sense. Arrows are always still a good utility spell. They fell off a lot because, well, a lot, that's saying a lot. They just are perennially, monthly, bi-monthly, bi-weekly in the top 10, or like top 3. So seeing them in 8 is like, oh my god, what happened to the arrows? The arrows are just, they're still fine. It's just there's less things to arrows right now. Mini P.E.K.K.A. has a crazy use rate and win rate right now. One of my favorite cards to play in the entire game. He's just really good. I mean, all the buffs have finally started to catch up to him, and Mini P.E.K.K.A. is honestly just dominating once again. I'd love to see it. Hate to go against it. But, hey, if I have the right hand, then it's fine to go against it, because I have 2 cards that are swarm cards in my deck. So, I shouldn't be losing the mini P.E.K.K.A.s, but they're still extremely fun. Log! Barbell's better. Well, this is all I gotta say about it. Log is just log. Guards are really strong right now, mainly because they're one of the only cards in the game that effectively defend the graveyard, that are like an actual card and it's not a poison. They defend against the graveyard. They're going to defend against mini P.E.K.K.A.s, P.E.K.K.A.s. I don't think it's the guards necessarily that are that broken, as much as it's just like you need some card in the game to sort of begin to balance against oppressive graveyard decks and beatdown decks, and guards help that out a lot because they're going to stall for a long time against graveyards, against P.E.K.K.A.s, against mini P.E.K.K.A.s, stuff like that. Goblin Machine! Barbarian Barrel is really good right now. It's actually being used 40% of decks in Ultimate Champion, which is insane. Being used more and more now that the Barb is really helping. As well as the fact that the log has gotten a few nerfs, and having that extra defensive card in the Barb, allowing you to tank, allowing you to kite, allowing you to do so much, is just really helpful. And the Barb has been, you know, he's been putting in the work, especially nowadays with Baby Dragon Evo. Sometimes the Barb can actually be used pretty well on offense. It's just fun to see the small, or just the spell meta in general switch up a little bit. Although we still need to nerf the vines. 1 out of every 4 games in Ultimate Champion have minions in them. Like, that's kind of crazy. No, like, I'm not talking top 1000. I'm talking all of Ultimate Champion. 1 in every 4 decks have minions. They are so strong right now. Absolutely dominant. Minions are everywhere. Minions are really good at what they do, and minions are annoying. Don't think that I really need to explain much about this one, though. So feel free to crucify me in the comments.